Well, good morning and welcome everyone here in the room as well as welcome to those on the live stream. I'm Chris Shank. I'm Verizon's Vice President of Small Business Sales, and welcome to the Verizon Small Business Digital Ready Training Camp. Are you excited to be here today? Yeah! Okay, so we have an amazing lineup for you today. We're going to start with an important topic, which is how do you build for long term? This session is called The Long Game, and it's building a legacy while you're still in a fight. The reason this is really critical is about 9% of new ventures are started with a focus on the long term. But think about that. That means most of them are not. And this is a really critical issue to confront. So to confront this together, we have an amazing panel set up for you today, okay? Our first panelist is Kristin Juszczyk. Now, just in a short period of time, Kristin has gone from sewing in her kitchen to building an iconic brand with NFL licensing, proving what's possible when you have mission and purpose. We also have Brees, who is an NFL legend, and he has built walk-on restaurants into over 150 locations, proving again what purpose and determination can do. And then finally, we have Carrie Hughes, who is Verizon's Associate Vice President of Social Innovation. Carrie has over 30 years of experience watching businesses use technology to impact society. And she is here also representing the Small Business Digital Ready program, which if any of you are not familiar with the program, please check it out. It is a free resource. You don't have to be a Verizon customer. There's tutorials, coaching, mentorship, grants. Go check it out for yourself. So with that, can our panelists please join us up here on the stage? Okay, so again, the theme of the day, right, is building for long term. And while you're in the fight, how are you building toward a legacy? So Kristin, I want to start with you with the first question. A question that all entrepreneurs need to answer is, are they building something for themselves that is just a job? Or are they building something that's lasting? And so how do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I think about that every day, but I think when we first started, it really did stem from something for myself. I think, I started sewing because I was having that creative itch that I wasn't fulfilling. And I started because I felt there was a gap in the industry, and truly it stemmed from going to games and wanting to wear things that I couldn't buy in stores. And so I had no idea how to sew, and I realized there's no other opportunity. If I can't buy it, I need to create it. And from there, it really stemmed from making things for myself for years and then getting requests from people. And then outside of the requests, and when I really wanted to build this company and build something that was everlasting, I think it was really important for me to dive into quality. I felt like there was a huge gap in the industry. I felt like when I was buying shirts for NFL teams, it was, the fabric was thin. It was something that was getting destroyed in the washing machine. And I wanted to bring back that feel of the iconic starter jacket that, your grandfather would pass down to you. So for me, when I dove into this world, I wanted to build something that I knew would last, that would be almost a legacy, like how the starter jackets feel, that, you'll go on eBay and you'll spend, 5x what it was when it came out, but that's going to get passed down to probably your grandchild.
Right.
So I think it was really important for me when I'm growing the legacy of my brand to really take into consideration quality, take into consideration, fabrics and how they feel, and using organic fabrics that aren't, manufactured in polyester, things that will actually sustain in your washing machine. But then also really diving into criticism and feedback and hearing what works and what doesn't work. I think, in my business, we're touching a ton of different markets, and what works for one market may not work for another market, and it's a learning experience. Coming from, a fan family of the 49ers, it's a very different market than maybe the Philadelphia Eagles or maybe the New Orleans Saints. So I think it's a learning experience and really diving into the culture of each team and making it feel authentic to them. That's super important for us when it comes to legacy too. So I'd say that's probably what
I appreciated your comments about being open to criticism and learning, because that really is what helps a lot of businesses accelerate, right? When you're afraid to do that, it stunts your learning and your acceleration.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, growth is never linear. And there are going to be moments, there are going to be months, maybe even years that you feel like it's not going your way, but you have to turn them into learning experiences. And I, dealt with that probably last month. I think for me, when you're starting to feel growth, you will have dips, you will have valleys in there, but you have to turn them into learning experiences so you can get right back up to where you were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drew, if I can ask you questions. So you built Walk-On into over 150 locations like we talked about. How do you make sure that that growth doesn't compromise the legacy that you're building?
Yeah, well, I think the hardest thing with any franchise brand is how do you scale and yet still maintain that culture, that charm, those processes, those things that made you successful with maybe the first few units, but now all of a sudden you feel like you're putting it in the hands of others to carry on the legacy that you helped to create. At the end of the day, it's all about your ability to very clearly put those processes and systems in place that equip that young franchisee or entrepreneur to be successful, provide them with the support that they need. But I think you really need to very clearly establish that identity and that culture, up front. And you make that kind of the mainstay for everything that you communicate. So, walk-ons, I think everybody has a bit of this walk-on mentality inside of them, right? It's the chip on your shoulder. It's always something to prove. But it's also, hey, we love what we're doing. Like, we're very passionate about what we're doing. Every entrepreneur, when you get started, you're either getting started because you're trying to solve a problem, right? Or you think that you can do it better than it's ever been done before. And so I think if you're constantly having that mindset of, hey, there's something more to accomplish, or hey, we could refine this and we can make this even better. We could create this atmosphere even better. We can make this dish even better. We can build this structure and this space even better. You're just constantly trying to push the envelope as to how good can we make our brand, our business, and then build the community in which you build as a franchisor as well. Every franchisee, you want to feel like every customer that walks into a Walk-On Sports Bistro, they're going to get the same experience, they're going to have the same vibe, the same energy, the same taste, like the same everything. So that level of consistency is really important across franchising.
So that relentless pursuit of being better, getting better is interesting. And so, Carrie, you kind of focus on this, but maybe from a different angle, right? Mm-hmm. You're very focused on how businesses use technology to make society better. And so on your observations, right, 30 years of observations, what do you see as the difference between businesses that are kind of focused more on the mission long-term and creating value?
Yeah, Drew alluded to the mindset that you have to have as a small business to really think about the future of your company beyond the day-to-day and the community that you're in. And so the journey for us with Small Business Digital Ready began in 2019, so right before COVID, when we had made this commitment to help 1 million small businesses thrive in the digital economy by 2030. So we were on this path to sort of figure out what tools we were going to build, and then COVID hit. So we shifted, at Verizon, we shifted very quickly to a model of grant making because we wanted to help small businesses in the moment. And so we gave, about 20 million of grants out, and we noticed something with the funds that small businesses received. We had some small businesses that used the grant just to get through the month, pay your employees, pay your rent, and get through the moment. But, unless you change something about your small business, you're going to be in the same situation the next month. But we noticed that some of the small businesses that got our funding really used that funding to build the systems and the infrastructure that they would need to get through COVID. So they created and made an investment in their business and had the right mindset to understand, like, I've got to be able to take online orders, have touchless, customer service. And so when we saw that, we thought, oh, we need to build tools that help support that mindset about it's bigger than me, it's bigger than the moment. I want to invest in my company long-term and use technology to create that roadmap and help my community, because when a community is strong, it uplifts the small businesses and everybody in it. So that's really the genesis of Small Business Digital Ready, and about the mindset that we want the small businesses to have, and help them with that.
So on that mission to 1 million, I think you just passed a milestone, right? Didn't we just pass 500,000?
We did. So we are right on time. We are over 500,000, and so really excited about that moment.
Okay.
Yep.
Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, Kristin, you heard Carrie talk about mission over profit. And so I want to ask you about balance and how you achieve balance between the day-to-day running of the business and the demands that you have versus continuing to focus on that long-term vision. How do you approach that balance?
You know, I'm still learning, I have to say. My husband will tell you I'm not very good at it, to be honest. Balance is very important, but I do think it comes from experience and come from figuring out what works and what doesn't work. I think for me, I'm still trying to balance my off-season manufacturing side with my ready-to-wear one-off side, and I don't want to lose that. Like we said, authenticity, it's so important, to feeling like this is part of my journey, and for me, that's my bread and butter. I mean, that's the reason why I'm here today, is because I was able to do all these unique one-offs, and I still want to be able to do that, whether that's for myself or for certain individuals here and there. So it's a balance of designing for myself and for individuals and actually hand-making things myself, and then also visiting factories, building a business, being able to actually do what I've always wanted to do, was to be able to access all the fans, because it's just not realistic to sit on a sewing machine to make thousands of units. But the balance, I think, comes from experience, and I think, you know, you learn what works and you learn what doesn't work for you. I also think it's just important to really just have a priority list in your head of what's super important. You know, you can get caught up in the little things really easily and what's time consuming. And also, you're only good as your team around you. And I think that comes into balance too. You have to be able to delegate things that you're not able to do throughout the day. And surrounding yourself with an amazing team is what's, I think, the most important skill set in entrepreneurship. You have to know what you know and know what you don't know, and bring in people that can really complement you. You know, you'll only go as far as everyone around you. So I think it's really important to surround yourself with an amazing team that you feel confident and you have a lot of trust in.
By the way, I saw your product last week for the first time.
What'd you think? Be honest.
It's phenomenal, because we were actually at a 49ers event and there was a raffle for an off-season jacket.
Oh, yes.
And one of my coworkers won the jacket.
No way.
And I had looked at the website, but when I saw it in person,
What'd you think?
oh my gosh, it's like really substantial. I was like, she's gonna need her separate carry-on just to take it home.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is, yes. It's meant to keep you warm on those cold games, for sure.
Well, you've done an amazing job of scaling quality.
Thank you. That was always the goal, so I appreciate that.
Yes. So, Drew, I want to ask you more about this kind of walk-on mentality, right? And so how does that philosophy translate into building something that creates generational wealth rather than just a successful business?
That's a great question.
Yeah. Again, I think every business has to have an identity. And I think through the entrepreneurial journey, you want to stay true to that identity as much as you can. In fact, it becomes kind of like your North Star, and it's like you always keep your eye on that. And so no matter what's going on, no matter what problems there are to solve, no matter what challenges you face in regards to growth or scale or whatever it is, you're always staying true to that identity or that North Star. And so I think establishing that early on, that helps prevent you from getting distracted. And especially as you build your team as well, that becomes something that is very evident with every team member that joins is, here's our North Star, here's identity, here's what we're staying true to. Every decision that we make is with this in mind. And I think that that's vital with any business, especially for, you know, the franchise businesses that we're involved in, where you're talking about scaling to hundreds and hundreds of units. How do you have everyone on the same page? Well, it's because everybody knows the North Star.
When you talk about identity, in a lot of cases you're trying to create consistency and something that's enduring. And so this is a question for you, because Kristin, you're in fashion, which is a very trendy kind of industry.
Sure.
So how have you thought about creating something that's lasting when you're in an industry that's so dynamic?
Yeah. Well, I think sports is an industry that is so everlasting. I think it's one of the most amazing, you know, last live event that people are really in person, not on their phones. And really, if you look at concerts, you know, everyone just is filming everything. I feel like sports is like the last live event that no one's on their phones and they are just engulfed in the field. And I think what's so unique on the fashion side of things for sports is it's everlasting, like you said. I mean, a starter sports bomber has been not trendy. It's been in trend for the past, however long they've been around, which is decades. So I think we're in a unique industry in that it's not just fashion. The sports, I think, bring that legacy into off-season. But we do want to bring in different silhouettes. And I think it is important to be up on the trends, but not too on the trends that it can go really fast. And I think for us, that's really where quality, like I said, comes into play. I think if you have something that lasts in your closets for decades, things always are cyclical, especially fashion. I mean, I always say never get rid of your denim because it will always come back. I mean, I know the girls, their dreaded low-rise jeans are back, so you should have never got rid of them. But I think that's what's also amazing. So I think quality is the main thing that will sustain trends because everything is cyclical and it will come back into style.
Okay. I want to come back to you, Drew. What advice would you give to someone in the room who's trying to think about how to focus on bigger things long term while they're kind of in this immediate fight?
Yeah, well, I guess I would go to just the fundamentals of the way that I have looked at any investment or any business that I've wanted to get into, and that is, first and foremost, every franchise brand that I've gotten involved with, I started off as a customer. I started off, so there was a very authentic nature to it. I started off as a customer before I ever thought about the business side of it. Secondly, it was the culture and leadership that was in place. So you're always thinking about what it is that you're wanting to create or what it is that you're wanting to be a part of. So having the right members of the team that, again, identify that North Star and that identity and buy into it, but understanding the culture and leadership that needs to take place in order to be successful. And then thirdly is, the unit economics part of it, right? I mean, you're building a business that needs to be able to be profitable, right, in order to be successful and continue to grow and scale. But I think just creating fundamentals for yourself that you stick with, and that just becomes, again, the basis for your decision making as you go along the journey.
So this is my last question, and we told you all up front that we're going to give you a chance to ask, so get those questions ready because they're coming. But I'd appreciate if all three of you could give a perspective on this one, maybe starting with you, Carrie, on legacy building. So what's the last thought or insight you would leave with this audience on legacy building?
I would say, from our perspective, the digital ready perspective, it's about we're there to help you with that. These things that Drew and Kristin have described are hard to do when you're also trying to run a business, to think about the culture and the long term. And so small business owners need help to do that, to be able to understand and be intentional about their day-to-day decisions that will keep the doors open, but also think about those long-term goals. And so we have built Digital Ready to help you do that. So using the resources, asking for help is really the goal for us to help, facilitate that long-term vision, that legacy, and, being able to stay in the business long-term. Okay.
Drew, your thoughts?
Yeah. Look, there's a lot that goes into that. First off, when I think about legacy, I think about leaving something better than when you found it, right? So that applies to every aspect of life, every interaction, every relationship, certainly within the framework of your business. We said it earlier, why did you start the business or get into the business to begin with? Well, it's because you saw a problem and that you were trying to solve, or you saw an industry or something that you said, hey, I can do it better than it's currently being done. And along the way, it doesn't mean that there's not setbacks, right? In fact, I think in most cases, it's 2 steps back, leap forward. 2 steps back, leap forward, right? It's like you never know when that leap is going to take place, and it's because of the struggle, right, and the challenges that you get, hardened a little bit. You get, you develop some traits and attributes that you didn't have before that, right? Or you learned how to handle a certain issue or a certain problem that is now propelling you forward. So all that is to say is, don't grow weary, don't grow frustrated, because that reward and that satisfaction comes through those struggles, and through those 2 steps back, the giant leap is coming, right? Again, if you just maintain, I think, the belief, you maintain the identity, and I think you always strive to value the relationships too. At the end of the day, what's leadership? It's bringing out the best in everyone around you. And so as you think about your team, think about how am I bringing out the best in them? How am I equipping them to help be a part of this team, understand their role, buy into this role so that we can accomplish something great together.
That kind of 2 steps back, a leap forward is a really important concept because you don't know how close you are sometimes, right? And it's so important to keep going when you're in that moment. A lot of people talk about the water boiling at 212 degrees, right? And when you're at 211 degrees, the water's not boiling yet, but you don't know 1 more degree is going to get it there. And so sometimes it does come in spurts that you don't expect. And if you don't keep going, it would never happen, right? Kristin, what are your last thoughts on legacy building?
Yeah, I think from the perspective of building a big business that has legacy and that, stands around for decades, hopefully. I mean, I'm still in the very infancy stage of that, but from what I've learned even this past year is, like I've said, surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals or people that can really complement you and come from a different perspective is so important. For me, when I was granted the NFL licensing, I went on a long stretch of finding the right business partner, and it was not easy. I, probably met with 15 different individuals that I had a hard time figuring out because nobody felt right for me. It felt like I had to explain my vision to people and I wasn't getting the reverse of them seeing what they can see on top of what I see. And I found like it was a long stretch before I finally found the right business partner for me that really saw the vision that I saw. But I think that to me is what's so important in building longevity in a business, is being around like-minded individuals that can complement you, that can push you, and can also add to your business skills that maybe you don't have. I mean, I have an eye for design, but I've never worked in manufacturing. And I think what Drew said is, speaking of the financial side of a business, there are tough decisions that you're going to have to make that maybe wasn't making you profitable, and you may have to, unfortunately remove something that you didn't want to remove, but in order to keep that legacy and if it still keeps your authenticity, then it's important, because at the end of the day, we are trying to make money and we are building a business. And those are the things that people, I feel like, don't really want to talk about and they get uncomfortable about, but has to be profitable. And you're going to learn some things that work and some things that don't work. But I think, again, just surrounding yourself with a team that can really educate you, that can push you and complement you. And what I've also learned, I think, in my short time of building off-season is that it's important to have people from different facets of life. I think if you surround yourself too much by like-minded individuals, that will hurt you. I think you need to have, different ages, different ethnicities, men, women, all come together to really, fight the battle of what works and what doesn't work, and to just come from different perspectives. I think it's really important in business building.
That courage to say no to the wrong partner is really important.
Yeah, it's really important because
I
think when you start to feel success, you'll see and you'll feel a lot of people dangling things in front of you. And it's really easy to just say yes because it may just be the right and easy, the easy decision to make. And I think it's really important, like you said, your North Star, to never lose sight of that, to feel really passionate in what you believe in, and to make sure that the people around you are believing in it too, and to feel like it's just as authentic as you feel. Because it's really easy to say yes to the wrong person.
Right. Okay, what a start to day 2. It's now your turn. You have 2 amazing entrepreneurs here. You have Carrie, who's seen it for over 30 years. We have 2 mic runners, 1 on each side. For your question, please wait until the microphone is there so everybody can hear you. But who has our first question?
Yes, my question is, what is the best way to pitch, particularly as a startup, to an established entrepreneur?
Both of us, or?
I'm sorry, both of you.
So pitching your idea to an established entrepreneur?
Yes.
Is this with the intent of getting support, getting funding? What?
Yes, support, funding, partnership. I know, particularly someone in both of your positions, you probably get a lot of pitches, but I just want to know in terms of what is the best way, organic way, or just relationship-wise, to present yourself and to pitch to someone who you would like to partner with?
Yeah, so for me, I had a unique situation in finding the business partner because, like I said, it was a world that I'd never entered. And I had the exact same question you did, like, where do I even find a business partner? So I think, again, it was a lot of networking, a lot of asking around. For me, I had never pitched a day in my life. So when I found my business partner, Emma Greed, I mean, she's on Shark Tank, and I just did every single research I could possibly do. I watched so much Shark Tank on how people pitch. I came with anything I could possibly come with. I made a deck that I had never made before. I brought every single piece of clothing that I had ever made. And I sat down on this boardroom table that was a 50-person boardroom table, and it was just her and her husband and me. And pitching in front of them was probably the scariest day of my life. But like, you just have to be so overly prepared. Everything that you have ever done, bring it with you and have the knowledge. I listened to every single one of her podcasts that she had ever been on, every single one of her husband's podcasts he had ever been on. I watched every single one of her Shark Tank episodes. I wanted to learn, what she found success in and what she maybe did in or deals that she did take. But with actually finding a business partner and pitching, I think it comes a lot with networking. I think this is an amazing event for you to be at, to find, different partners and maybe people who have found funding for you and have support in that way. But for me personally, my journey was really doing the networking and a lot of research. And the way that I was able to find Emma online is I found her email address online. I found her LinkedIn. I sent her emails. I sent her LinkedIn messages. I sent her DM messages. So I think we live in a world of non-harassment. But we live in a world where everyone's contact is at your fingertips. And it's so much easier now to contact people. So just put yourself out there and really do your research online. And everyone's contact information, whether that's LinkedIn or social media, is out there, so you just have to send that message.
And I just want to add, there are a lot of resources on Digital Ready about pitching and workshops and as well as courses, so I would recommend, if you haven't seen those, to take a look.
I would just add real quick, I think it's portraying a relentless attitude.
Absolutely.
But also like a sponge for just learning and knowledge, right? So the preparation going into it, the relentless attitude, and then I think just the willingness to hear and absorb, all of the information or, teaching that comes along with it.
Hello, I'm Alexandria, designer and founder of F&W Style. So my question is, what is one thing that you wish you had known in your business prior to starting? Something that is just instrumental now that you wish you had known in the beginning?
I'll let you take that.
I want both of you to answer, please.
Yeah. I think with the restaurant industry, I think especially, I've been a part of walk-ons now for over 10 years. When I first got involved with walk-ons, we had 3 corporate units. We hadn't even begun to franchise yet. So in the beginning, it was, how do we put together now the FDD and all of the, just the franchise system? How do we build the franchise system by which we can go out and persuade aspiring business owners to want to choose our brand, right, versus others? And again, when you only have 3 units in the beginning, it's very simple because it's like, hey, I can literally drive to all of our units, and now all of a sudden you're wanting people 5 states away to take your brand that you've helped to build and create an identity for, and they kind of run off with it, so to speak, and yet, man, how do we keep eyes on that? How do we build systems and processes that will give them a playbook to go be successful, but also entrust them with, our baby, right? So I think I would say that the biggest learnings for us in the beginning were really identifying the right partners, those that would treat it as their own, not that they were just licensing your brand, right, or your concept, but truly they felt as much a part of it and an owner in it as you are. And look, that's hard to find. And along the way, you don't always necessarily, choose the right ones, or they turn out to not be, what you hoped it would be. But I think your ability to find those partners, though, that have that same mindset as you, I think is the biggest challenge, but also the biggest reward in the end, because then you feel like you've really built a formidable team.
I think for me, the thing that I'm still learning so much and learning to accept, I would say more importantly, is that things happen that you can't control. And for me, I started with making things myself, designing things myself, making it myself, shipping it myself, so I had full control. And then when you dive into the business world, there are just things that are going to happen, whether that are tariffs, whether that are, having factories in one country and not having diverse portfolios, and things that you have absolutely no control over that can really damage a business. You have to roll with the punches, and you have to be so quick to be able to change, and you have to just be ready to make those changes immediately and have a team that is able to support you. I think for us, there are constantly problems every single day that you have to roll with, whether that are delays on shipment. I mean, when we started off season, we intended to launch on Black Friday. We ended up launching week 2 of playoffs, and we were lucky that we had 4 teams that were in the playoffs, but if we didn't, I mean, the market of NFL drops immediately when that team is no longer playing. So we just got really lucky. I think another thing that I learned is that, success is truly defined when preparation meets a little bit of luck. And that is just the truth. You have to, that little bit of luck really does come a long way. And for us, you have to learn to accept that. Some things happen and some things don't. But I think preparation and you're willing to be able to change immediately and to learn what worked and didn't work, I would say is the biggest assets that I learned. Yeah.
Thank you. My question is for Drew. So on and off the field, you're responsible for motivating your team to get them to the North Star, right? But now you're in business, and you have kind of the same responsibility, especially if you're franchising the team. So my question is, because it is vital in my business, how do you align them toward the ultimate goal of the business, even though on the field you had to do the same? How do you align them even though they have their own North Star? Right? Everyone has a family they want to take care of, whatever their ambitions are, but how do you bring that around for them to still get to the goal?
It's a great question. I think the best thing you can do as a business owner, or as the boss, so to speak, is to understand the ultimate goals and motivations of the people that work with you. I think you're foolish not to. And in most cases, look, we're the restaurant business especially, I mean, it's typically high turnover, right? And really across all of our franchise brands. Like, I'll give you an example. One of our franchises is called Stretch Zone. So it's practitioner-led stretching. A lot of our, stretch practitioners are either students that are going to physical therapy school, or they're fitness enthusiasts. They might be yoga instructors, right? But we have to send them to training and invest a lot of time, energy, resources, money into getting them trained to become stretch practitioners. If they're not with us for more than 4 months, we lose money on that scenario, right? So we obviously want to be able to identify people that are going to be with us for a long time. Obviously be really effective at their job. But at the end of the day, I think what's most important to me as we got into this was, well, I want what we're doing to bring value to them and to what their ultimate goals are. So why would we not be sitting down with every one of these people during the interview process and ask them, hey, what are your ultimate goals? Like, what do you aspire to do? And in many cases, it's, hey, I'm in PT school, and in 2 years, once I get my PT degree, I'm going to go on and be a physical therapist, and I will no longer be working for, or, my ultimate goal is to own my own gym, or my own yoga studio, or whatever it might be. And I think then the communication from us needs to be, well, how can I help you accomplish that goal for you? Like, what can we do as a company to help equip you with the skill set that you need to be able to go on and achieve your goal? At the end of the day, if an employee feels like their employer is investing that type of, energy and attention to what their ultimate goals are, I think they're going to be more apt to want to be a part of the team and show up on time and do a little bit extra, right? Maybe go outside the scope of just what is their job description in order to really be a part of the team and bring the value that you would like them to bring. So I think at the end of the day, it's learning. It's learning about your team and learning what their ultimate goals are. And I think we're naive to think that, hey, they don't have higher aspirations than where they sit right now.
Yeah.
But if they feel that you have their best interest in mind and that you're helping to elevate them to where they want to be, you'll get their best.
Okay, my question is for Kristin. So as entrepreneurs, we've built a strong community through the Coffee's Crib, and we've reached a point where we've outgrown our current size. We're passionate about scaling, but we've run into challenges accessing the funding we need. Despite having great credit and no debt, banks have turned us away, likely because we're under 2 years in business and require significant capital. In your experience, how did you approach growth during your off seasons, and do you recommend bringing on a partner to accelerate that growth? We want to keep the Coffee's Crib true to our vision. It's our baby, but we also recognize the value of collaboration. How did you find the right balance between staying authentic and strategically scaling?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's really hard when you have something as your baby to bring in a partner who is going to take equity, right? That's really hard for business owners, and it was really hard for me. But someone told me once, and it's so true, that a small piece of a huge pie is a lot better than a small pie, right? And it's really true, and as long as you can find that right partner who understands your authenticity and who doesn't want to change your authenticity, who is going to help grow you, that's the most important part of it. So I think finding that right partner will help you grow, but you have to trust the timing of everything. Because for me, I tried to grow multiple times, and I can't tell you how many no's I've heard, truly. And I look back at it, and I'm so thankful for those no's, because if I would have maybe gotten that contract a year earlier, I would have never gotten to the business partner that I ended up landing on. So I think it's really important to trust the timing. Maybe, the timing right now, in 5 years, you'll be so happy that you were able to get that funding 2 years later, or maybe the next year. So trust the timing of it, but I also think, finding a partner and maybe giving them some equity, if they understand your vision and will bring your vision to light, is important. You just have to make sure you're aligned.
Thank you. My question is also for Kristin. It's been really fun watching you grow your company from creating customs on your ping pong table to what it is now. My question to you is, where do you see off-season growing to in the next 5 years and then 10 years, and what are your goals?
Yeah, I have so many goals. I think for us, first off, we want to walk before we run. I think it's really important within the first year of business is so important to establish authenticity and to establish your legacy and know what people know you for. So right now, I really want to make sure that our customers are happy within the short-term 5-year plan. I want to make sure that people know who we are. I think for me, my most important thing is before you see an off-season tag, that you know it's an off-season piece. And I think there's a lot of brands who do an incredible job at that. And I think, your branding is important, but there should be an overall branding that people feel the second they see your piece from a distance. Or when they feel your piece, they know that that's your company. And I think that's all around. I think that's restaurant business. I think if you just walk into anything and you just feel that overwhelming sense of what that business is really important. So I would say that's my goal for 5 years, is for people to just see whether that's an NFL piece. Hopefully we can expand to other leagues, and they just know immediately that we can still have that feeling of that league, because maybe MLB is very different than the NFL, but they know right away that that's an off-season piece because the authenticity of the design. So that's number one. But number two, I would say long-term, 10 years growth. I would love to touch as many leagues as possible. What's so amazing about sports is it's a 365. There's always leagues happening. There's always so many sports happening. But I always look up to what Fanatics built. I think it's incredible that they are just a one-stop shop for every single league you can imagine, and that's something that I aspire to be, the quality, the fashion side of it, to have that one-stop shop, whether you're shopping for NFL, MLB, NHL, NCAA, having a piece for everybody. I would say that's probably my long-term goal, but what's really important for me is to have that authenticity of knowing that that's our piece right away before you see a tag.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for one last quick question.
Hey, Kristin, we got this question from a fan that's watching on the live stream. What do you decide what to fight for and what to let go of as you're building your brand?
Oh, I struggle with that. I think you have to fight for stuff that keeps you up at night and, things that you're thinking about constantly. I also think fight's not the right word. You know, you need to communicate how you feel. Really get the perspective from people around you that if there is a fight and you aren't seeing eye to eye, you need to understand why. And I think there are things that I have 100% let go because you realize you just are looking more to the bigger picture. I think you need to ask yourself, if this is something that you're struggling with, is this gonna hinder me short term or is this gonna hinder me long term? I think it's more important when you're growing a legacy and when you're growing a business to really look long term. You can get really caught up in what's happening present day and what's happening on future drops, or I mean present drops right now. But I think you can, definitely communicate those feelings that you really feel passionate about to fight that you think will push you forward long term, and maybe let go of the things that are too short term that aren't gonna give you growth.
Okay, that is a wrap. Can we give a round of applause to our panelists, please?
We'll get to you.
So for those in the room, we have big plans for you the rest of the day and tomorrow. For those on live stream, thank you for joining us, and please check us out on Verizon Small Business Digital Ready. Thank you for being with us today. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.